Mark Halperin.
I'm John Heilemann, and with all due respect to Donald Trump and Reince Priebus, secrets are no fun. Greetings from the Union South building on the campus of the University of Wisconsin in Madison. There's more fallout from Donald Trump's explosive assertion yesterday that in a world where abortion was illegal, quote, there has to be some form of punishment for women having them. So we're going to spend our whole A block talking today about the biggest, and in some ways the only question right now in the Republican presidential race. Has the Teflon Don's previously impermeable coating finally been pierced? The controversy over abortion, among others, that Trump is dealing with this week, has the Republican frontrunner being pummeled by both his rivals and also by his erstwhile enablers in the mainstream media.
Trump retweeted an image someone else posted showing Heidi Cruz in an unflattering pose next to a modeling photo of Melania Trump.
This is backfiring on Donald Trump. I mean, it's not going to have any impact on the polls or primaries or anything like that. But people feel bad for Heidi Cruz, and they really feel for Ted Cruz because, you know, it's like, it's kind of sacred. You can't go after a guy's wife's looks.
It is a tabloid smear. And it is a smear that has come from Donald Trump and his henchmen.
People have described my interview as contentious, and what I was just asking Donald Trump to do was, at some point, can you ever apologize? Real men stand up and say, okay, I was wrong. And this campaign has apparently just decided they're never going to admit it, and as a result, they kind of back themselves into a corner on all of this.
Day of bad news for Trump. Governor Walker endorsed Trump's rival, Ted Cruz.
A 15-year-old protester was pepper sprayed as she clashed with Trump's supporters. Democrats have been quick to pounce.
Ultimately, the responsibility is Mr. Trump's.
After Trump's campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, was arrested and charged with simple battery for allegedly grabbing a reporter, a group of 16 conservative members of the media called on Trump to fire Lewandowski.
This is the kind of thing that could absolutely sway a Wisconsin voter.
This is repelling so many people who are not his core supporters.
The poll numbers, certainly Wisconsin, not good news for Donald Trump.
No, not good news for Donald Trump.
Planned Parenthood obviously against pro-life groups coming against Donald Trump.
If Donald Trump does not ultimately win the Republican nomination, he's going to look back at this week is when the bottom started to drop out.
While this was going on, today Trump was in Washington, D.C., communing with Reince Priebus, and for the first time, we believe, his recently unveiled claque of foreign policy advisors. As of now, Trump isn't planning to be back in this state until Saturday, when he has two events here. So, Mark, we're going to go wide and deep on this topic, but let's start with the 30,000-foot view. Is this a genuinely different kind of crisis that Donald Trump is facing than what he's faced before?
Well, look, he may not win the primary here, and the polling suggests he won't, but he's still got a strong hold on the nomination to get to a majority or near a majority. I will say, if you graze at the media buffet, both nationally and in Wisconsin, you see the information flow for Trump has been horrible. We saw a sampling of it there, but it has been horrible. Most of the things have been negative, and not the kind of negative that is going to rally his supporters. It's stuff his supporters might tolerate, but it is rallying and giving confidence to those who want to stop Trump. They have needed, above all else, two things. They've needed a strategy to stop him, and they've needed confidence. This is giving them one of them. Well,
we've gotten to the phase in the campaign where electability, when people are starting to look in a cold, hard way at someone who's likely to be their nominee and ask the questions, what would that mean? What would that mean for our prospects in the presidential election, down ballot, for the party? That's been in the talks in the ether for a while, but now people are really focused on it. And the things that Donald Trump has happened in the series of controversies over the last week all cast significant doubt on whether he could be elected in the fall. Even things that aren't even making big waves. The notion of violating the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. All of it's creating this echo of, you know, is this guy really the person we want
How do you
to be
know
at the head of our
people are focused on electability now?
One suspects, on the basis of talking to the fine voters of Wisconsin and other places, that people are now focused on that.
Your Uber driver brought up electability?
Sorry?
Did your Uber driver bring up electability?
The people here in Wisconsin are wise and common sense people, Mark, as you know. They're thinking about who their nominee might be.
I think that Trump has defied political gravity in so many ways. One of them has been, we've talked about it before, no one has become a major party nominee in the modern era without having an existential scare. We don't know yet if this is an existential scare, but there are plenty of Republicans, all self-interested, people associated with Ted Cruz, with John Kasich, people associated with Hillary Clinton, who say Trump is now in a fall, not a free fall, but he's in a fall. And if he loses Wisconsin, he will have 2 weeks of pain, but with a chance to reassert things in New York. And it could all be Bobby Ewing's dream. Even if Trump gets shellacked here, if he comes back and wins New York handily, which a new poll out today suggests he will.
I'll go so far as to say I don't think this is yet an existential crisis. I don't think it's gotten that far. Donald Trump can lose this state and again bounce back. He has a lot of the calendar is very favorable to him, not just in New York, but beyond. There are many states that we both would say he's favored to win. This could be just really a bump in the road, more than even an existential crisis. But he puts himself in a position where if he were to lose New York, he would have a genuine existential crisis on his hands.
Yeah, you know, we always quote Haley Barbour here, who says good in politics, good gets better and bad gets worse. Right now, things are getting worse for Donald Trump, at least in the perception of media and political elites. And whether this is an actual electoral problem or not, ultimately, Trump's opponents in both parties are all trying to take advantage of what's going on with him. Bill and Hillary Clinton, John Kasich, all made their way around New York today, campaigning for that state's primary in a couple of weeks. They each took their turns at jabbing at the Republican frontrunner.
Just yesterday, Donald Trump said women should be punished for having an abortion. He then tried to distance himself once that kind of reaction came out from his outrageous comments, but we all heard them.
I don't know what to say. They keep playing around with this issue and taking the right to choose away from women. I guess it was for them the next logical step, but I disagree with it.
It appears as though when he does these events and people press him, he becomes unmoored and then has to spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to correct all the mistakes that he made. And I have to tell you that as a commander-in-chief and leader of the free world, you don't get do-overs. You need to be able to get it right the first time.
The pile on Donald Trump, though, extends beyond his candidate rivals in an unusual pairing. Two groups that support Hillary Clinton, the super PAC that's backing her, Priorities USA, and Planned Parenthood, worked together to come out with a new digital ad they say is aimed at voters in Ohio, Florida, and in Washington, D.C. It calls Trump dangerous, insulting, and demeaning to women. So the abortion comments in particular have set off this joint effort from the left and right. But even before that, we saw comments about women. You know, the ad being run by the Republican anti-Trump super PAC is an ad that the Democrats could run exactly as it's running now in the general election.
Well, yeah, look, and that's obviously a danger zone for any candidate. I believe Steve Schmidt was the one who made this point back in 2012, that when you're being attacked on the same grounds by your opponents to your left and to your right, you're in dangerous territory. You know, it has always struck me, and I'm not just claiming 20/20 hindsight here. The one time when Donald Trump really got trounced on a specific flap was when he made the demeaning comment about Carly Fiorina's looks. It always struck me at that moment that that was something that could be a potential real landmine for him going forward. It is that women are more than 50% of the population. Republican women in the suburbs in particular are essential to winning a presidential election. And it's just kind of ugly. It's not a kind of thing that people kind of chortle along with, not in our society today. And I'm not surprised on some level that this series of things related to gender are the things that are getting him into a potentially really perilous situation.
And let's say one thing about the naked emperor is regarding polling. Donald Trump continues to assert that he beats Hillary Clinton in head-to-head polling.
It's a lie.
Hasn't beaten her in head-to-head poll in a long time.
It's a straightforward lie.
And he continues to be in denial, at least publicly, about what Republican women and women overall think about him.
Yes.
And whether they approve or disapprove of him. This kind of denial would not exist in a normal campaign, because a normal campaigns would have a pollster who would come to him who would say, you are in big trouble.
And
well,
you're in big trouble, and
you got to start turning these things around. So Trump can say this is not trouble, but those two measures, whether he's electable against Hillary Clinton right now and whether women approve of him, those are big problems for him politically.
You can make up an electoral strategy that writes off Hispanics. It's not a wise thing to do, but you can say, well, I'm just going to overperform with white voters and do horribly with Hispanic voters and still imagine a way to win the presidency. You cannot win the presidency if you're losing 70% of female voters. You can't. There's no math where that works. Yep. None. Zero. All right. You done?
Yeah, I'm done.
All right.
Let's go.
Okay. When we come back, Ted Cruz's return to late night TV and Hillary Clinton's return to Wisconsin right after this.
Last night, Ted Cruz wasn't here in Wisconsin. Oh, no, he was on the left coast, making an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live and showing a different brand than the more familiar firebrand persona that he shows most of the time. After starting off talking about policy, Cruz joked about his old dream of becoming an actor, his bad boy reputation in the nation's capital, and he took a few shots at Donald Trump. Here are some of the night's most memorable moments.
The salt and pepper in the beard gives you a distinguished look. It's a good look.
I appreciate that. You're not going to put me on the Muslim watch list because of this, are you?
It's already done, actually. If I were in my car and getting ready to reverse and saw Donald in the backup camera, I'm not confident which pedal I put. Pink Floyd, I saw senior year in the Astrodome. And there was an image that
David Gilmour was here last night.
That's what I understand.
Yep.
Well, 2 or 3 seats down from me was a police officer smoking a joint. Holding a roach clip, smoking a joint.
Wow.
And I have to admit, I was 17 at the time, and he was in uniform. I mean, this was an officer in uniform. I kind of shook my head and said, well, it's Floyd.
So, the comedy stylings of Ted Cruz, how is his likability tour going?
Well, I don't know if this all constitutes a likability tour, but I will say that performance was a top-flight performance. He was very, very good. And you and I have often talked about the fact that if you're going to be the President of the United States, as trivial as this sounds, you got to be able to go on shows like that and come across in a winning way. I've seen Ted Cruz come across in a winning way like that rarely. But last night, hit it out of the park.
I will court Twitter trouble by saying anyone who spent time with Ted Cruz knows he's capable of that. He's a funny, and I'm going to say it, charming guy, and he doesn't,
or at least can be.
And he doesn't display it enough. And
yes.
And all this focus on Donald Trump and all the fighting over their wives, etc. It is crowding out his ability to convince Republican voters, hey, don't just be for me because I'm not Trump. Right. There are good reasons to be for me.
Well, but I'll tell you something else about it is that it's also all this focus is actually obscuring the fact that Ted Cruz has gotten better. I mean, all candidates get better over a long campaign, but most. The ones who survive generally get better. He's really gotten better. He's gotten better. I do think that the comment that he made about suggesting he might have run Trump over if he was backing up in his car and saw Trump behind him might have been just a little bit on the far side.
But I got to say, the fact that didn't cause a controversy. If Trump said that now, it would cause a controversy. The fact that it didn't cause a controversy tells you Ted Cruz, despite the fact that he's not had the best relationship with the media always, has a pretty good one. And his staff, for a conservative campaign based in Texas, they have worked very hard to be on good terms with the media, and you're seeing the benefits of that right now.
But it also tells you that Trump is so far in the barrel. If Cruz had maybe said that about Kasich, he might have gotten more hell for it. Right now, Trump's in the barrel, so people are like, ooh, running over Donald Trump, that's funny.
Ha ha.
All right, okay, as we mentioned, Hillary and Bill Clinton were in New York campaigning today. When the Democratic frontrunner left this state, Wisconsin, a couple of days ago, despite the importance of the primary here, you and me, Mark, we asked the question, what was Team Clinton doing? What are they up to? But now the polls show her trailing Bernie Sanders. Despite that fact, she and her husband are now coming back this weekend for a Democratic dinner on Saturday and other campaign stops. So it just raises the question that we asked before, only with this from a slightly different angle. What is up with that?
The Clintons always think they can win. Yeah. They always think if it's a state they've won before, and Bill Clinton won it himself, she did not against Barack Obama, they think they can win. I suspect they're coming back because they don't want to be left out of the national narrative. They've got to try to keep the margin tight, even if she loses. And I believe tomorrow Bill Clinton will project the notion when he's here in Appleton that they can still somehow steal it. And if she comes back and wins it, I won't say the race is over.
If she comes back and wins it, if she goes back and wins it, it'll be a huge story because, again, now expectations are that Sanders is going to win and probably win by a large amount.
Tad Devine has said they must win.
Yes, of course. I think there's just maybe a little bit more Occam's razor here, that they left the state when they thought they were going to lose, but they weren't going to lose badly. And now it's become clear to them that they are, in fact, going to lose badly. And so this is all about trying to keep the margin at some reasonable number, not losing by 20 or something.
Whether it's to keep it close or whether it's to try to steal it back, it is a testament to their belief that they can come here and make a difference.
Right.
Bill Clinton has, as he does with almost every state in the union, he's got a special relationship with this state.
Oh, he does. He loves the cheese.
Yeah.
I think it would have been crazy if they'd stayed out of the state for the rest of the week.
It would have just been.
It's just
like quitters.
I don't really understand why they left in the first place, frankly.
Because they're trying to shore up New York. I mean, most of the time they haven't been here, they've been in New York, and they know that whatever happens here, she could lose by 20 here, and if she wins convincingly in New York, it's not as over, but it's pretty close to over.
But you have pointed out in the past, and rightly, that the Clintons generally their rule is only focus on the election that's right in front of you.
Yeah.
So it was weird when they left, I thought, given that rule in their household.
Bill and Hillary Clinton will be here to greet you when you come. When we come back, bring in two reporters who are living this critical battle for both parties here in Wisconsin. Right after this.
With two reporters who are straight out of Wisconsin, that is. Joining us now, Capital Times political reporter Jessie Opoien, and Wisconsin State Journal political reporter Matt DeFour. Jessie, Matt, thank you for coming here. Did I pronounce that the right way?
Yes, you did.
Nailed it. So, big news this week. There's a lot of stuff going on in the state, but one of the biggest pieces of news this week was Scott Walker bestowing, not only saying he was going to vote for Ted Cruz, but actually giving a pretty full-throated endorsement.
Yeah.
How much does it matter, and how has that gone down?
Well, you know, does any endorsement matter? Not that much. But the thing about Scott Walker is he's a great retail politician. He's great getting out there, rounding up support among the Republicans throughout the state. So do they look to see who he's supporting? Maybe not. But do they look to see Scott Walker's holding a rally? I'm going to go. I'm going to listen to what he has to say. I think he can help people get energized.
We saw in the Marquette poll Republicans approving of Scott Walker, and then have the spectacle of Donald Trump, maybe not for the first time, defying the norm. A guy who takes on Fox News within the context of the Republican primary, coming in here, bad-mouthing Scott Walker, and as you said, having the crowd say, boo along. Like he turned people who probably used to be for Walker against him.
Though to be fair, there's probably plenty of Illinois people. Walker's been bashing Illinois, inviting all the bridges to come across.
But is it possible it's smart? Is it possible that it's smart politics for Trump to come in here and attack Walker, or no?
I mean, if he's going to have support in this state, he's certainly looking among the people who are not necessarily huge fans of Scott Walker. But I think he may even know he's not going to win in Wisconsin. I mean, are we kidding ourselves?
He's coming back.
He doesn't want to get blown out. I mean, he doesn't want to get blown out by Ted Cruz. But I mean, the momentum's on Ted Cruz's side, and it's just there's a conservative movement in this state that Scott Walker is at the top of the pyramid on. So does this endorsement matter? I mean, I think it's more symbolic of the fact that there's this, southeastern Wisconsin is dominated by conservative talk radio. They control the legislature. They're working to get a firmer grip on the state Supreme Court. And I mean, I think that's really what we have at play in Wisconsin, and they're behind Cruz.
You're saying Walker is more of a lagging indicator than a leading indicator?
Well, he gave an indication that he was going to back Cruz, I think, a week before he actually did even. So, but, I mean, maybe he didn't want to be that lagging indicator, but yeah, I mean, he's part of a movement.
So I want to ask you guys the same question that we have asked pretty much everybody we encounter who knows anything about this state or about politics in this state since we got here. Why is John Kasich just so hopeless in this state? Given all the reasons why, on paper at least, you'd think he'd be competitive.
I don't know that he's entirely hopeless. I mean, he's not got hope to win it necessarily, but could he maybe eke out a second place? Maybe. Why is he hopeless? Why is Trump doing so well anywhere? No one really knows the answer to that.
That's not a question. He's Kasich. He's a very extraordinarily popular governor of a state that's not that different from this state.
Sure.
Why has he not caught fire? What's the reason?
I think in some ways people might see him as a Scott Walker light. I mean, they have many things in common, but we've already got that here in Wisconsin, and they're happy with it at the state level, but Scott Walker didn't get that traction either. So who's to say, why are we going to go support Kasich if we already had this in Walker?
And still look for Kasich maybe to pick up 3 delegates in the 2nd Congressional District, which is Mark Pocan's district. I mean, he's still looking for every delegate he can get, so he's got some kind of an argument in Cleveland. But he's not doing well more broadly because, again, I'm going to hit this point again and again. It's the movement conservatives getting behind Cruz. They were behind Rubio initially. I mean, that's where you saw them going. But now that he's out, are they going to pick the more moderate Republican, or are they going to pick the? And Kasich's not completely moderate,
but more moderate.
But more moderate than Cruz for sure. And I think they think he can win too. He can win the nomination.
Just let's talk about the Democrats. Bernie Sanders seems to be doing better here than he did in Illinois, neighboring state, better than he did in Ohio, but more like Michigan. At least that's the way it seems to be setting up. What is it about this state as compared to, say, Illinois and Ohio, where it looks like he's poised to do better?
Well, I mean, ask any liberal or any progressive here, and they'll go back to the days of fighting Bob La Follette and the strong progressive history that Wisconsin has. And a lot of people still hold true to that. We've got people who are actively involved in that on a yearly basis, on a regular basis, not just when presidential elections come around. And Bernie Sanders has been coming to Wisconsin for years, talking to these people, long before he was even being talked about as a presidential candidate. So he's already got a following here of people who want to hear what he has to say. And, of course, like any, big university town, we've seen him do well in liberal university towns. And Madison's good for that. He's doing very well in Madison.
He's going to do well here, too. I mean, look, this is just the Marquette poll that came out yesterday. He's doing well in Milwaukee County, too. He's actually beating Clinton. And I think that's a pretty good indicator as well that expect him to win on Tuesday.
Again, let me be the why guy. Why? I mean, we went to this Hillary Clinton event in Milwaukee on Monday night. It was an incredibly desultory event, not very crowded, not very much energy. Why is she not doing better in the part of the state where she should do well?
There's a lot of organization in the state among the progressives. This goes back to the recall. It goes back to the protests in 2011. They were organized back then, maybe not enough to win the recall or even unseat Scott Walker in 2014, but that still exists, and that's a very liberal sort of young people, the demographics that benefit Bernie Sanders, and it's not the same kind of Milwaukee minority population that you're thinking of when you look at the South. It's not as conservative. I mean, I think they're more together with this liberal movement.
Where is labor in this primary?
Split, to be honest. I mean, Bernie Sanders is obviously perceived as more of the labor candidate, but you definitely see labor coming in on the side of Clinton too. So, they're
Milwaukee County executive race. There's a very tough battle between the incumbent and Chris Larson, and it's splitting that vote. But again, I think everyone thinks that this is going to benefit their Supreme Court candidate in the state Supreme Court race. So.
I'm going to ask you a very inside process question. The public poll that came out showed Sanders with a small lead. The Clinton people seem to think that she's got a bigger gap to make up. Do you guys have a fingertip feel? Is it possible Sanders could blow this out?
I don't think he's going to blow it out.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think he's going to do reasonably well. There's a very solid chance that he wins, but my guess is by a handful of points as opposed to 20.
So the Clintons are coming in here not to keep it close, but to try to win.
I don't know about that.
Well, it could be to keep it close.
If it's a small lead, why couldn't she pull it out?
Make sure that there's still a really competitive race on Tuesday when there's a lot of other things at stake in for state Democrats too. And not just saying that that's part of their calculation, but it benefits everybody. So.
We got about 30 seconds left. Just real simple, big picture question: is turnout? The people occasionally, every place we go, people say there's going to be a record turnout.
Right.
Do you guys expect there to be a record turnout in this primary, or is the enthusiasm a little high on both sides?
They're saying above 40%, which would be the highest since 1980. Again, it's not just presidential. I think there's other things driving it, especially in Milwaukee County. Mayor's race, county exec, Supreme Court. Those things don't matter to your national audience, but in Wisconsin, they're going to make a difference in turnout.
I mean, I think just 30,000 feet, I think it's, of all the primaries and caucuses we've had so far, this is the place with the highest profile down ballot races that could impact the turnout.
I mean, it's not going to flip the balance of the state Supreme Court, but it is going to start making a huge difference. And it's symbolic in that way.
Advertising, etc.
Jessie and Matt, thank you very much. Coming up, we talked to two professional pro-lifers about Donald Trump's controversial comments yesterday. Right after this.
After Donald Trump's comments yesterday that women who receive illegal abortions should be punished, we started a conversation across the country, including in the pro-life community. Here to talk about the controversies meeting and its impact, President and CEO of Concerned Women for America, a Cruz supporter, Penny Nance, who's in our Washington bureau, and here with us in Wisconsin, Chelsea Shields, the Legislative and PAC Director for Wisconsin Right to Life, which recently endorsed Ted Cruz as well. Ladies, thank you both for joining us. Start with you here in Wisconsin. Do you have a sense of how Donald Trump's comments will play with the pro-life community in this state?
We've had a lot of concerns, and so this is why we're so excited to support Senator Cruz. You know, Wisconsin Right to Life, we looked at his record, we looked at the polling numbers, and we saw he is the best pro-life candidate for us, the best chance of winning the Republican nomination, the best chance of winning the presidency, the best candidate for pro-lifers to win and start putting the changes that we want into effect.
So that didn't answer my question, though, about Donald Trump's comments and whether you think those will have an impact on voters between now and the primary.
I mean, I think it will have an impact.
Why?
It's been very concerning for us because the entire pro-life community, we know that we stand by women who have had abortions. In fact, some of our best advocates have been post-abortive women. And we advocate for hope and healing after abortion rather than punishment, which is unthinkable.
Penny, I want to just ask you, when you heard what Donald Trump said yesterday, it's Chris Matthews, and took it all and read it through, and then read through his clarifications, his 2 clarifications afterwards. Just what was the sum total of your assessment of what was going on with him there, and what troubled you about it?
Well, once I picked my jaw off the floor after I heard his original comments and I looked through the rest of it, I concluded that this is indicative of his overall misunderstanding and maybe even lack of care about the abortion issue. He does not understand the people that he's trying to win their votes. He doesn't understand. Alice Paul said that abortion was the ultimate exploitation of women. And the pro-life community believes that. We believe these are hurting, broken women. And as women of faith, we truly believe in redemption and we want to love and help them. He doesn't understand that. And so it's deeply troubling. He tried to clean it up, but it's really sad to me that I think he's a cynic. I think he was appealing to what he thought we believed, but it bit him this time because he doesn't understand us at all.
And Nance, let me stay with you and ask you about this concept. Again, an emotional issue for anybody who thinks about it. This notion of women being a victim. Who are they the victim of? Aren't they the ones who got pregnant, perhaps in an irresponsible way, and then choose to have an abortion? Who's victimizing them?
It's been said before, women don't choose an abortion like they choose an ice cream cone or they want a Porsche. It's like an animal chewing its leg off in a trap. And often these women are preyed on by big abortion, by Planned Parenthood, by political people that have political reasons, and men who walk away from them. And so we need to come alongside them, love them, give their opportunities to make other choices, better choices, and help them to understand. Unfortunately, when you walk into a government-funded Planned Parenthood clinic as a pregnant woman, 98% of the time you're going to leave without a baby because you're told that's your only choice. We're saying cut Planned Parenthood's funding, give the money instead to the 13,000 pregnancy care centers and community health centers who can care for the whole woman and give them other options.
Jessie, how do you evaluate, there are people who change their minds about abortion over the course of their lives, right? They start out pro-life and they end up pro-choice, or vice versa. In Donald Trump's case, he's one of those people who at least ostensibly has changed his mind, having been pro-choice for a long time, including being in favor of partial birth abortion, I believe, or accepting of it. How do you evaluate when someone's making a genuine conversion and when someone's doing it for purely political, cynical reasons?
Well, we always welcome converts to our cause who, understand the truth about abortion. But what's given us pause is when we see that back and forth between the pro-life position and positions that traditionally have been pro-choice or pro-abortion. And so when we hear these insensitive comments about women who have had abortions, or when we hear comments saying that Planned Parenthood does good things, even though they still stand by the dismemberment of unborn children, that gives us pause, because we don't believe that Planned Parenthood, any of the good things that they can do, can overcome the fact that every day unborn children are dismembered in their facilities. So hearing comments like that worries pro-lifers.
And you have no doubt in your mind that Trump's current your sense is that Trump's current posture is just made up.
It gives us a lot of doubts. We want to believe his statements because we want people to come to our side. But we just don't know if it's genuine right now, and we want to stand behind somebody who has that proven record on our issue.
And Nance, can you understand the support of someone like Sarah Palin, who's been so supportive of the pro-life movement, including here in Wisconsin, supporting Donald Trump?
Well, everyone has to choose for themselves. And let me say, only God sees Donald Trump's heart, clearly. But my problem's with the fact that even if he is sincere, he hasn't taken the time to understand the issues at stake. He said that he thinks a great Supreme Court justice would be his sister, who tried to strike down the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act in New Jersey. He has not taken the time to understand who we are, what the issues are, and why we care and why we think what we do. And so, yeah, I have all due respect for Sarah Palin and others who come to a different conclusion. But for me, I believe, just like Chelsea, that Ted Cruz is the better candidate, and as a pro-lifer, I will be supporting him.
and ask you both for a one-word answer on this because we've got less than 30 seconds. If Donald Trump beats your candidate, Ted Cruz, for the nomination, Penny Nance, will you support him in a general election against perhaps Hillary Clinton?
Always over Hillary Clinton. Anybody's better.
Okay, Chelsea, would you support Donald
Trump? We know Hillary Clinton's record, and we know she is 100% against any restrictions on abortion.
So you'd be enthusiastically for Donald Trump if that were the two choices?
Well, we would definitely be against Hillary Clinton.
All right. Penny Nance in Washington, Chelsea Shields here in Wisconsin. Thank you both. Appreciate you for coming in.
Thank you.
And don't forget, if you're watching us now in Washington, D.C., you can listen to us now on Bloomberg 99.1 on the radio. We'll be right back with a look at how things are playing out here on the ground for Ted Cruz in Wisconsin. Some new video we want to show you. Hillary Clinton today at the college campus, SUNY Purchase in New York State. She was approached by a Greenpeace activist who asked her whether she would decline taking donation funds from fossil fuel companies going forward. Greenpeace posted a video on YouTube of Clinton's reaction. All right, that was a little bit tough to hear. What she said was, quote, I have money from people who have worked for fossil fuel companies. I'm so sick of the Sanders campaign lying about me. I am sick of it. We've seen between the two candidates and campaigns frayed tempers and emotions on issues just like this of late.
Yes, and you know, I don't mean to shrug at it, but we have gotten to that phase in the campaign where things are personal and things people are actually annoyed. They want this thing to end, but it does not behoove her or anybody to behave that way on a rope line, and especially in front of the camera.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not so great. All right, turning back to the Republican race here in the Badger State. We sent our resident auteur, Griffin Hammond, out to do some badgering of his own. He followed Ted Cruz, his wife, and Carly Fiorina through Wisconsin to get a look at some good old-fashioned Midwestern campaigning. And no, he actually did not badger them, as you'll see when you take a look.
Whoa. Well, it is great to be back in Wisconsin, and I continue to be encouraged and energized by the passion, by the enthusiasm we're seeing on the ground. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here. With Reagan, Grant, Lincoln, and Thatcher. I mean, that's holy cow. Talk about being in hallowed company.
They have yet to have a president who will fight for the Constitution for them. So,
thank you.
So thank you for coming to our prayer.
Conservatives are coming together. Republicans are coming together.
Give her a big, warm Wisconsin welcome.
I want you to go out and do your job on Tuesday. Talk to everybody you know.
If every person here goes and gets 9 other people to vote, that is how we win.
Joining me live on the line is Governor Scott Walker.
Ted Cruz is the best positioned by far to both win the nomination of the Republican Party and to then go on and defeat Hillary Clinton.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Boy, hang in there. I hope nothing else you're the vice president.
I have no idea.
Hudson, great to see you. You want me to sign that? Well, that's a strong look. Now, it may hurt when you pull it off. You may pull some hair.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting to have a candidate like Ted come out.
I didn't actually expect to get this close, though, so it was cool.
And I like the button, too. Very strong.
If Cruz isn't the nominee, if it is Trump, we're not going to be able to go to the ballot box and support him. As strongly as we feel that Hillary or Bernie would be a disaster for this country, I can't in good conscience support Donald Trump.
Good to see you.
I've had that.
Such a great welcome here in Fond du Lac. Did I pronounce that correctly? All right, I practiced all the way in. Fond du Lac. Heidi was just going to make a fantastic First Lady.
Ted is the kindest person that I know. We have had a lot of experiences that have been moments of high stress, and in those moments, the first thing that Ted does is turn to me and says, I love you, or calls me from the bus and sings to me. Ted is not learning what he believes to run for office. He learned what he believed at the dinner table with the Bible and the Constitution.
I just, had to meet Heidi, and I'm just such a huge supporter of her and Carly, and it's just been a great opportunity to just be a part of the whole process.
This is going to come down to the men and women gathered here. It is going to come down to the grassroots.
Wisconsin people have a strong base of nothing else, common sense.
We're 8 days away from Election Day. Wisconsin is a battleground.
We got to run through the tape here. You got to go work hard to the very last minute.
Look, it's now or never.
Thank you, and God bless you.
All right, thanks again to the wonderful, talented, and amazing Griffin Hammond. Up next, we're joined by our pollster-in-chief, Ann Selzer.
And now for something completely similar to what we started the show talking about, which is whether Donald Trump's brand is actually in any trouble right now. We thought we'd devote our weekly By the Numbers segment taking a look at how the Republican frontrunners' favorability numbers are faring now and over time. According to our most recent Bloomberg Politics national poll, it came out last week, 68% of likely general election voters have an unfavorable view of Donald Trump. This week's Marquette University poll here in Wisconsin shows that Trump basically has the same problem at the state level amongst general election voters. To put some of this into perspective, we did what we always do. We called in our master pollster, Ann Selzer, who joins us now, not from Des Moines, but from New York, where she's watering our cactus. And people are talking about whether Trump is hurting himself now amongst female voters. What does the data show?
Well, this is where polling is really helpful, is that we can see how the same question asked historically, how things change over time. And our numbers are showing that when we first started asking about Donald Trump with women, his numbers weren't very good, and his numbers have continued to get worse. So I was reminded a bit of Haley Barbour, that bad gets worse, and he's now 73% among women say they have an unfavorable opinion of him. That's up from 65% only a few months ago.
And where that moment, as we discussed earlier in the show, where electability is suddenly on everybody's mind, or at least on a lot of people's minds. I'm curious, how does Trump's these hypotheticals, how does Trump stack up versus his other rivals in terms of his electability in head-to-heads?
Right. Well, let's turn to the candidate who is doing the best job among women in looking at the general election from the Republican side, and that's John Kasich. Clinton leads, to be sure, with women, but it's only an 8-point lead. Her lead against Ted Cruz is higher than that, about double that, at 17 points. It jumps to 29 points when you pair Hillary Clinton about Ted Cruz among women likely to vote in the general election. She gets 60% of that vote. If women are the majority of voters, you can't lose 60% of the vote and still win the election. There are a lot of constituencies you can lose, but you cannot lose women and win a general election.
And let's go back 4 years, compare Trump to the last Republican presidential nominee, Mitt Romney, on this measure.
Well, the exit polls will show that Barack Obama won the presidency because he won women. He won 55% of women. Mitt Romney only took 44%. That's a very traditional gender gap that we would call it, because women tend to vote more Democratic. With the way that Trump's numbers are looking now, he may lose a higher percentage, just making it more possibility that there's a blowout if those are the two candidates and if things continue on trend.
So, Ann, Trump's unfavorables are super high, but just do a little comparison with past nominees, winners and losers in that area.
Right. I'm asked all the time, what do you have historically that compares to what we're looking at now? And I keep saying we don't have anything historically that looks at what we have now. But we went back and used Gallup poll because they're consistent over time with asking the same question in the same way to see how other nominees for president, where were their favorable numbers? And you can see that they kind of go a range from a low of 27%, that's John McCain in 2008, that was his unfavorable rating. Only 1 in 4 said they didn't have good feelings about him. And then a high of Barack Obama at 46% heading into his re-election campaign. Well, all of that pales compared to where Donald Trump is. Those polls were all taken in March of the comparable year. So they're at the same point in the cycle. So it's a really revealing just how dangerously bad the Trump numbers are for Trump.
And is there, in looking at our poll and other data you've looked at, is there anything, if you were Trump's pollster and wanted to make him feel good about his chance of winning in general, is there anything you could point to say, well, there's that?
Well, the mood of the electorate is basically saying we don't want the same old kind of person. So even if we don't like him, you can't really judge the mood of the electorate about that. I will also point out that early on he had a very high negative, and people thought you can't even get into the race if you have a negative that high. He not only entered the race, but he basically upended his unfavorable rating and made it just as favorable as it had been unfavorable. So we've seen him move from bad to good. Now we've seen him move from good to bad. There's every possibility that because he's so against anything we've ever seen before, he'll find a way to convert back to positive territory with his favorable rating.
And if you were Ted Cruz and you were looking at your own numbers and you're looking at Donald Trump's numbers, what would you point to as the most favorable comparison where you said, here's my number, here's Donald Trump's number, this is why I'm the better candidate or the better nominee?
Wow. Well, Ted Cruz is getting better as a candidate, and so his numbers are sort of steadily marching forward. I can't say that he's had a huge rise, but we do tend to look at, well, what's the direction and what's the momentum? And it does seem to be that the momentum right now is on Ted Cruz's side.
And if you look at John Kasich, obviously he's arguing a lot about the polls. Does he seem to have more upside? In other words, if he got the momentum, is there room for him to grow?
Well, John Kasich does especially well in matchups with Hillary Clinton. He has said before he's the only candidate who's beating Hillary Clinton, and that's in fact true in our poll. So John Kasich, he obviously has a huge hill to climb up, but that hill levels out a bit if the people that he's competing against are seeing some adversity. So anything that is happening to cause controversy on the other side and to get people turned off with the negative tone, John Kasich's tone is very different. He's well positioned if only people knew more about him.
Got it. Ann, thanks very much as always. Go sit at our table at Sardi's. Up next, we'll enroll in a new Trump University course. This one's called How to Apologize 101, right after this.
After these past few days, they've seemed pretty bad for Donald Trump, so we started wondering if he might consider apologizing for any of the things that he's done or that have happened. As it turns out, Trump was asked about that very subject, apologizing, by Anderson Cooper a couple nights back. We thought Trump's answer was interesting.
When was the last time you actually apologized for something?
Oh, wow. No, I do believe, I don't know, I'll think. Can I think? But look, I do believe in apologizing if you're wrong. But if you're not wrong, I don't believe in apologizing. For instance, I could have apologized. You brought up, we started this with Corey, my campaign manager. Will you apologize? I said, apologize for what? I see the tape. Apologize for what? I'd love to apologize. It would be so much easier. Apologize, Corey, you're fired.
But you don't know a specific example that you've apologized?
I mean, apologize. I apologized to my mother years ago for using foul language. I apologize to my wife for not being presidential on occasion. She's always saying, darling, be more presidential.
It's like Harold and the Purple Crayon, only different. All right, head to BloombergPolitics.com right now Check out our colleague Kahil Kapoor's story on Donald Trump handling Democrats a potentially powerful weapon with his latest comments on abortion. Tomorrow, we'll be here in Wisconsin with a big interview. Until then, thanks for watching. Thanks to everybody here on campus. Sayonara.